It is a wild and wacky Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Welcome in. I'm David Wilson. That is my buddy Calvin White. I'm coming to you from my respective home in the 615 on the west side of Nashville. Calvin coming to you from up in Montgomery County in Clarksville. Happy Wednesday, everybody. Calvin, how we doing? You,
I
you
was muted.
muted?
I'm
There we
excited.
go.
I'm excited for my final work work day of the week here on Main Street Sports today. Excited to talk a little MLB playoffs later. But we're gonna get into the schedule here in a second. But excited to have another fun, wild, and wacky Wednesday.
Yeah, it is the first day of the best month of the year. That is the month of October. Um, us October babies are happy that it's here. 13 days away, so October 14th will be yours truly, 26th birthday. Getting old, as you can tell, I'm losing the hair on the top of my head right here. I'm trying. I normally wear a hat to cover it up, but no hat today. Gotta show the fade, at least the nice edge up on the haircut. But it's a good show, Calvin, and I'm glad you mentioned that. Looking forward to talking to our friend Heather Williams here in the second hour in our second to last segment of the show for her weekly visit as we talk a little NASCAR. The NASCAR Cup Series playoffs is winding through the final couple weeks on its slate. It is in the final race of the round of 12 as the NASCAR Cup Series heads back to its mothership, I guess its home base, the Charlotte area in North Carolina, as they get ready to take on the Charlotte Roval this weekend. And once again, the final race of the round of 12, they will eliminate four drivers from their playoff field and cut it down to eight. Got a lot of drama to talk about on the NASCAR Cup Series with schedule with Heather when she joins us. Toyota got into it this past weekend with car owner Denny Hamlin, also who's a co-owner with Michael Jordan, getting into his driver, Bubba Wallace, and allowing Chase Elliott to capture the checker flag at Kansas Motor Speedway last week. So we'll get another therapy session or a psychiatrist session from Heather and when it comes to Team Toyota yet again. As Calvin mentioned, we'll talk a little baseball. MLB playoffs got underway yesterday um, across Major League Baseball. Two games in the NL wild card and two games in the AL wild card. Game two is going on right now up in Cleveland. We'll have a game two also going on in Chicago by the time this show gets in full steam. Then coming up on the next segment, we'll be joined by our friend VALAIR SHABILLA from 615 Soccer. It's a big night tonight for the city of Nashville as Nashville SC takes on Austin FC in the U.S. Open Cup tonight at 7 o'clock. You can find that on Paramount Plus. Looking forward to talking to VALAIR about all the things going on with the boys in gold. Calvin, first of all, I was rude. How's the first day of October treating you? And then we'll get into the rundown and the schedule.
It's been good so far. It's a little not warmer than it has been, but it's still a little warm for the first couple weeks of fall and first little bit of October. But like I told Wade yesterday, it's better than the time of the year that we're going to get to in about a month or two, where it's dark at 4 p.m. and it's 35 degrees outside.
I agree. You're not the only person who came up to me and told me today it's hot outside to be the first day of October. I like the warm weather. I'm one of those people that I'd rather it be warm than cold, but I might be in the minority on that. But looking forward to a really good show, as we said, and we'll get things going and kick things off with yesterday's results and today's schedule on the rundown.
This is the Rundown.
We will start in girls volleyball with Spring Hill picking up a 3-1 win over Battle Creek in district play. It was Green Hill defeating Beach in district play as well in straight sets. It was Columbia sweeping Franklin County also in district play. It was Siegel picking up a 5-set victory over Cookeville. Franklin Road Academy picked up a 5-set win over Providence Christian 3-2. It was Gallatin sweeping Hendersonville 3-0. Murfreesboro Central Magnet 3-0 winners over Giles County. It was Hampshire picking up a 3-0 sweep over Mount Pleasant. It was BGA winning in 5 sets against Middle Tennessee Christian. It was Riverdale 3-1 winners over Smyrna. It was Rockville 3-1 winners over Stewart's Creek. And in two sweeps In Rutherford County, it was Eagleville picking up a 3-0 sweep over Smith County, and Blackman a 3-0 win over Wilson Central. That one last night was at Wilson Central in Lebanon.
Moving into our girls soccer scores from last night, Antioch shuts out Hunters Lane 2-0. Blackman wins 2-1 over Columbia. Kirkwood wins 9-0 over Clarksville Northeast. Grace Christian out of Franklin wins 3-2 over Columbia Academy. Richland falls 3-2 to Culleoka. Henry County shuts out Dixon County 2-0. Father Ryan wins 3-1 over Innsworth. Franklin Road Academy shuts out Franklin Christian 9-0. Gallatin wins 4-1 over Green Hill. Siegel falls 4-0 to Hendersonville. Hillsboro 2-1 winners over John Overton. Hume Fogg wins 1-0 over the University School in Nashville. Brentwood Academy and Independence draw at 0 apiece. Clarksville Northwest wins 8-0 over Kenwood. Macon County falls 8-0 to Liberty Creek. Lipscomb Academy wins 9-0 over Centennial. East Robertson falls 3-1 to McEwen. James Lawson wins 5-3 over McGavick. Merrill Hyde 5-1 winners over DCA. Friendship Christian beats Middle Tennessee Christian 2-0. Mount Juliet 4, Nolansville 1. Murfreesboro Central Magnet down Shelbyville 5-2. Oakland 1-0 winners over Brentwood. Clarksville falls 5-1 to Pope John Paul II. Portland wins 6-2 over Goodpasture. Page 4-0 over Rockvale. Warren County and Spring Hill draw at 1 each. White House wins 6-1 over Springfield. Franklin was 8-0 winners over Station Camp. Stewart's Creek 2-0 over Cookville. Trigg County from Kentucky wins 6-0 over West Creek. Watertown 2-1 winners over Stone Memorial. White House Heritage defeats Greenbrier 3-1. Wilson Central beats Lebanon 3-1, and Zion Christian wins 2-1 over the Webb School.
A very lengthy girls soccer slate yesterday as we round down to the final week of the regular season. In Major League Baseball yesterday, as we mentioned, the playoffs got underway yesterday. 2 games in the American League and 2 games in the National League. In the first game yesterday, an AL Central showdown in the wild card series between the Detroit Tigers and the Cleveland Guardians. And it was the visiting Tigers picking up a 2-1 win and taking a 1-0 lead in that series. Tarek Skubal fanned 14 yesterday for the Tigers, who picked up the win. At Wrigley Field yesterday, it was back-to-back home runs that sent the Cubs to a 1-0 series lead over the Padres. Cubs winners 3-1 in that one. And in one of the best rivalries in baseball, up at Yankee Stadium last night, it was the Boston Red Sox holding off the New York Yankees 3-1. Garrett Crochet, absolutely phenomenal. The Yankees stranded the bases loaded in the bottom of the 9th inning in that one. And out at Chavez Ravine, a happy Tommy Bryan last night as Teoscar Hernandez and Shohei Ohtani homered twice. It's the Dodgers defeating the Reds and LA native Hunter Green 10-5 last night. That game will wrap up the game 2 tonight across Major League Baseball. We'll come to that schedule here very shortly. Last night in the W, decisive Game 5 at Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas. And it was the Las Vegas Aces advancing to the WNBA Finals with a 107-98 overtime victory over the Indiana Fever. They will face the Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA Finals beginning on Friday. Tonight's schedule, just one game we have posted for the TLSVA volleyball action. It is Cane Ridge at Smyrna at 6 o'clock. Girls soccer actions, Clarksville Academy at Friendship Christian at 4:30 for a first touch. That is district play in the Commanders' final district match of the regular season. At 6 o'clock, it is Fairview at Battle Creek. And at 7 o'clock, it is Stewart's Creek at Lebanon. A very decisive game for Lebanon as they look to try to get the number 2 seed in the District 7 3A postseason and then secure a first-round bye after losing to Wilson Central last night. Wild card series, as I mentioned, one of them is already underway. That is Detroit at Cleveland in Game 2 of their series. You can find that one currently on ESPN. It is right now 1-1 in the bottom of the 6th inning with 2 outs and the Guardians at bat. Coming up at 2:08, really, so right now, first pitch to be underway on ABC is San Diego Padres looking to continue their season at the Chicago Cubs. That is Dylan Cease versus Andrew Kittredge in that pitching matchup. This afternoon at Yankee Stadium in the Bronx, it's the Red Sox looking to sweep their AL East rival in the American League Wildcard Series. 5:08 first pitch once again. That is on ESPN. That is Brian Bayo versus left-hander Carlos Rodon. And then tonight out in LA. Game 2 of the wild card series between the Cincinnati Reds and the Los Angeles Dodgers. 8:08 first pitch on ESPN. That is Zach Littell versus Yoshibu Yamamoto in that one. Tonight, as we mentioned in the open, big MLS game tonight for the Nashville Soccer Club at Austin FC at 7 o'clock on Paramount Plus. That is the U.S. Open final as the boys in gold look to bring back their first championship to Nashville. Ladies and gentlemen, that was your lengthy results from yesterday, and that was tonight's schedule. And that is your rundown. Our top story is brought to you by the fine folks at Piggly Wiggly in Neely's Mill in Columbia. They serve daily lunch from 11 a.m. to 6 p.m. They also offer hand-cut meats, and everything is cost plus 10 at the cash register. Piggly Wiggly, Neely's Mill in Columbia. Presenting you our top story, and I mentioned right there in the results last night. What a game last night at Michelob Ultra Arena. Game 5 between the Indiana Fever and the Las Vegas Aces that went to overtime, Calvin. I don't know if you caught it on ESPN2, but it was the Aces picking up the victory 107-98 and advancing to the WNBA Finals. They will take on the Phoenix Mercury in a 7-game series, as I mentioned, beginning on Friday. It was a back and forth battle. This is a shorthanded Indiana Fever team, obviously without Sophie Cunningham, without superstar Caitlin Clark. Also, Kelsey Mitchell got hurt in the second half, did not play the final minutes of the fourth quarter, Aaliyah Boston fouls out in the fourth quarter, so the Fever found themselves without 4 of really their difference-making players. In the overtime period, though, Calvin, it was the Las Vegas Aces making big shot after big shot, whether it was Jackie Young, um, Chelsea Gray, etc. Asia Wilson, she's obviously the MVP. She had 35 points last night, but it was the Aces just finding a way on their home court to get it done and get back to the WNBA Finals with head coach Becky Hammond.
Yeah, I flipped it on when I got the notification that it was going into overtime, and in overtime, that the Aces outscored the Fever 21-12. Even without Kelsey Mitchell, and it was really impressive from the Fever as well, just to have so many of their players hurt and not playing. Mainly Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, and you mentioned Aaliyah Boston fouling out. And to take the Aces to overtime in the 5th game of the series was really impressive. It was a really fun series, and I think the Aces are going back to the finals for, I think, the 3rd time in 4 years or something like that. Obviously, they've been one of the more dominant teams in the league over the last couple of seasons. Asia Wilson's a 4-time MVP for a reason. But quick turnaround now. The finals start on Friday, I believe. So we'll have to get ready for that against the Phoenix Mercury.
It's a valiant effort the last week and a half, 2 weeks for the Indiana Fever. You think about it, this team was been decimated by injuries so much. I feel like I didn't even, mention all the players that have missed time or that were missing time for this team through the postseason. I mentioned Sophie Cunningham, who suffered a leg injury, Caitlin Clark, who's been battling injuries all season long. This is a team that was without its best players, in this postseason run. Kelsey Mitchell goes down, as you mentioned. She was 4 of 8 shooting, had 15 points. Was really, off to a good start. She was 3 of 3 from 3-point range, and 4 of 5 from the free throw line yesterday. So she was off to a good start. And they just battled. Odyssey Sims last night for the Fever, and head coach Stephanie White had 27 points. So they were battling. And, you could have made a case that they could have easily stolen this game. Didn't necessarily like the way that Vegas finished the fourth quarter. Felt like they were just allowing Indiana to stay in the game. But give credit to the Aces. They pulled away and won by 9 points in overtime. And they have, once again, as Mo and I have talked about, and you and I have talked about, Calvin, they had that championship pedigree. So it should be a really good series between them and Phoenix, who upset Minnesota in their semifinal round to get to the WNBA Finals. It should be a good one. Looking forward to that 7-game series. First time in WNBA history that the final has gone from 5 games to 7 games. So it will be lengthy, hopefully, which will be good for us. So we're excited about that. Coming up on the show, like I said, got a good one for you. Coming up on after this next break, our friend VALAIR SHABILLA of 615 Soccer will join us. It's a big night, as we mentioned in the preview of the rundown. It's a big night for the boys in gold here from Nashville as they take on Austin FC in the U.S. Open Cup final. We will discuss that with VALAIR and so much more here coming up on Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. So stick with us.
The winning just got closer. All new Sportsbook, the latest gaming machines, live horse racing, and more. The Mid Gaming Hall, Kentucky Downs. Winning just got closer.
Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Busy bee, yeah, busy bee. If you need
Hold on, y'all, hold on. I need to make a call. Hey, this is Brianna with Busy Bee. I'm giving you a call to let you know your technician is on his way.
333.
Busy bee. Guys, not yet. Not yet.
Busy bee, oh,
Now
busy
ready,
bee.
guys.
Call 775-7833.
Custom Stone Handlers supplies over 600 distributors and suppliers with quality stone products. Along with Riverstone, we produce and distribute over 100 building, landscape, and other bulk products. Our goal is to provide quality products, service, and partnerships to ensure our customers' success. We firmly believe the measure of any person or company is how you treat other people and customers. Give them a call at 931-490-4990 or visit CustomStoneHandlers.com.
Welcome back into a wild and wacky edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm David Wilson. That is my buddy, Calvin White. Looking forward to being joined by our good friend. He's got the shades on. You can go ahead and bring it in, Mark. He's enjoying the nice sunshine on a nice October day. Our friend VALAIR SHABILLA of 615 Soccer, kind enough to join us on a big night here for the boys in gold here in Nashville. VALAIR, how you doing?
I'm good. How are you guys? Thanks for having me again.
Man, you're looking good. I'll say you look relaxed and having a good old time. The beard looks good. So I appreciate you taking some time out of your Wednesday to talk to us.
You know, it's really hot in Austin. I don't know if you can tell, but there's a pool right here. So I'm planning to spend some time here before the game starts and I start doing all my media duties out there, you know.
Well, walk us through it. Obviously, you're in Austin tonight, a big match, as we mentioned, for the boys in gold in the U.S. Open final. Obviously, it was a great summer for this group. Obviously, they went on that great run, and it included their play in the U.S. Open tournament. You know, they started off picking up a win over Chattanooga, and they just seemed to really continue that momentum moving forward. Also defeated Orlando FC 3-2. Philadelphia Union in the semifinals 3-1. Just kind of talk about this magical run and just the great soccer that they played throughout the summer.
Yeah, you know, for Nashville, it looked like for a while because the U.S. Open Cup didn't have the same. Not every MLS team was playing in it this year, which is a little bit different than usual. There was this sort of misconception that maybe Nashville have an easier run, but as you listed there, I mean, Orlando and Philadelphia, both really good teams. Philadelphia are on route to win the Supporters' Shield. They lead MLS right now for that race. Orlando, and another really, really good team in this league. So really, it's not like they had an easy going. Obviously, the earlier rounds you play against lower divisions, but that's every team. And then, like you see tonight, it's an away game for the final, which is an interesting one because there is a home field advantage there for Austin and everything. But for Nashville, really, this season was supposed to be this rebuild season that maybe you get into the playoffs, maybe you make a little bit of a cup run if you're lucky, and then most importantly is you get the players to believe and know BJ Callahan's system. That was the whole point of what this season was going to be. The fact that they already have made the playoffs, the fact that they have already in the Open Cup final tonight, they're one game away from winning the first trophy in club history. That's not a rebuild season anymore. That's a really, really successful season that just wasn't in play earlier. If you had asked, 1,000 people, they none of them I think would have that in mind for this season. So yeah, it's been a good, even when the results haven't always been there, the performances have been fairly consistent for Nashville SC.
Valair, Austin's record is almost, polar opposites compared to, when they score first and when they lead at halftime compared to if they trail at halftime. What do you think is kind of the key for, or how important is it going to be for Nashville to score first and get ahead early in this one?
I think it's very important, not just from obviously getting the lead early is very, very, very big in soccer, but the main thing is you have to consider how Austin plays, because the way Austin play is that they're a very defensive team. Maybe very defensive is a bit hard. They're a defensive team. They will sit back. They'll let you attack. They'll let you have the ball. And when you're as soon as you make one mistake, they'll take advantage of it and go at the other end and score. So it's very important for Nashville to get that first goal, because what that would do is that would actually get Austin out of their shell, get them to play a little bit. And then if Austin are there to play and Austin wants to have the ball, that really plays into Nashville's advantage, because Nashville would prefer a game to be more open. Nashville are better when the game is open, to where the more Austin sit back and not allow Nashville to score, then the game becomes a lot tighter. And breaking defenses down is hard anyway. When you have 10 men behind the ball, 11 men behind the ball, I mean, it's gonna be difficult. But we've seen Nashville break those sort of situations with teams before. To be fair, they do it more consistently at home. But to your point, getting that first goal, getting Austin out and playing, and also the big part of this is the atmosphere, is the crowd. This is going to be a sold-out, more than likely, stadium. This is a smaller stadium, so all the noise is there. Everything is really intimate. Getting the crowd out of it early on, maybe you get a goal 10, 15 minutes in, the crowd's starting to feel a little nervous. Maybe they're not as loud, as energetic, and then that really puts you in a good position going forward.
Blair, I'm going to build on Calvin's question. This is the fifth meeting between Austin and Nashville, so it's opponents that are very familiar with each other. Last year they played. Austin picked up a 2-0 win. Nashville 2-1-1 all time against Austin FC. Building on that, obviously Calvin mentioned maybe grabbing an early lead and playing from ahead. What are some other keys that are just on the top of your mind that Nashville has to do tonight in order to walk away with the cup?
I think the counter attacking or the defensive portion of the counter attacking, when it comes to Austin having those transition moments, because they are really good in transition. So I think for Nashville, we've seen a couple times this season where those transition moments, they looked like they lacked defensively. Maybe a little bit of miscommunication between the back line and maybe even the midfielders. It's not just the back line, right? BJ Callahan's big into this whole idea of everybody defends, everybody attacks, which sounds very elementary when you talk about it, but it's really it's something that not a lot of pro teams are doing. So for Nashville, I think it's keeping that mentality in check, and especially keeping that mentality in check when there's a transition moment and Austin are all of a sudden on the ball. They're breaking really fast. They have players who can hurt you on the counter. With the ball, I think Austin is less effective, trying to build something. I think Nashville will be, I mean, nothing is easy. Obviously, this is a final, but I think Nashville will be able to handle Austin in that way. It's the transition moments that I think would be a big thing for Nashville to be able to get a handle on, and not let Austin get those good chances from those transition moments. The other thing I would say is finishing their chances. Sam Surridge, he's a goal machine. He's scoring all the goals, but he actually misses a lot, and that's true of every high scoring player. I mean, even if you look outside of MLS, you look at Erling Haaland, right? In the Premier League, they usually miss the most chances because they're putting themselves in those areas more often than anybody else. So actually, their record looks like they miss a lot, but that's because they score a lot as well. There's not going to be a lot of missing. This is a one-off game. This is a final. This is not. There's nothing you can make up here. You have to win this game, and you have to go into it not missing your chances, not doubting yourself, and not keeping the team guessing, keeping yourself guessing. So those two are the big keys. Transition moments on the other end, and in attack, take care of your chances.
Austin's been really good defensively at home all season. Do you think the easiest way for Nashville SC to kind of, open up some opportunities is to score early, like you said, and kind of open up Austin's defense a little bit?
Yeah, I think you're going to have to make them uncomfortable because they are comfortable sitting there and defending. So even if it's not scoring, I mean, scoring against Austin is not going to be an easy thing to do at home with the crowd behind them. But even if it's not scoring, you're going to have to make them uncomfortable, whether that's taking a couple shots early on, maybe creating a little bit of chaos in the box, throw a cross on, have a midfielder run into the box. These are the things that will create moments that even if it's not a goal necessarily, it is something to get the Austin defenders thinking, oh, okay, we have to deal with this. We have to take care of this situation. And maybe that would lead into a goal eventually. Obviously, getting an early goal would be, again, the most important thing Nashville SC can do. Whether or not they can do it, at the very least, putting the pressure on Austin, being on the front foot, and being able to go into that defense and saying, you know what, we're going to make sure you're not comfortable. Because, again, Austin are very comfortable defensively, and you don't want them to gain that confidence minute after minute by the second time the second half starts. If you haven't scored or you haven't made any sort of good chances, they're going to be in an upper hand because they're at home. They've been defending good. They've been solid, and then they're going to look to attack on the other end. So yeah, I think getting a goal obviously number one, but just at the very least make them uncomfortable, I would say.
Well, our Shabilla of 615 Soccer, kind enough to join us here on Main Street Sports today as we preview tonight's U.S. Open final between Nashville SC and Austin FC. Well, you mentioned Sam Sturridge. Obviously, he's the straw, that stirs the drink for this Nashville offense. A lot of really good players, Hani Mutar, Eddie Taxef, etc., that make a lot of noise for that Nashville team. Who's somebody, though, that's maybe under the radar that's really going to have to play well tonight if we're talking around the water cooler tomorrow afternoon or tomorrow morning about Nashville capturing its first trophy?
Yeah, usually this would be the answer would be Andy Nahar, who is a right back, a fullback. They don't get as much of a recognition from fans, from media because of their position. However, Andy Nahar is an all-star, right? So he got that recognition because of how effective he is with the Nashville SC team. So maybe that doesn't answer your question. So I'll give you another answer. To me, it's Patrick Yazbek in midfield. Patrick Yazbek has been an unsung hero for this national team throughout the season. Eddie Taxef, his midfield partner, more likely than not tonight. But even if it's Brugman as his midfield partner, Yazbek is kind of that consistent rock in the back, and who is able to actually help going forward more than I think people give him credit for. So I think for him to have a good night, that would mean Nashville would have a good night as well. The way he handles the ball, the way he's really secure on the ball, can pass it forward, can dribble a player or two and then pass it as well. He plays like a deep lying midfielder, but sometimes you'll see him even make a run a little bit more forward. And I would say that's what that's what would if he would step up his game and be able to help as much going forward as he does going backwards. I think this Nashville team will really have a good night tonight. But regardless, just the fact that how much ground he covers, the running he does throughout the game, and the pressure he puts on the other team, I think that in itself would really play to Nashville's game plan. And yeah, he will need to have a good game for Nashville to have a good game for sure.
Valar, Nashville SC hasn't been nearly as good at scoring on the road as they have at home. We talked about, how important it was for them to be able to score early and, get an early lead and kind of open up that Austin defense. But, what do you think has been the biggest difference in Nashville's ability to, score so frequently at home compared to when they're on the road?
I mean, we've asked BJ and we've asked the players this multiple times, and there isn't like a one single thing you pinpoint to, but we've heard that cliche. You sleep in your own bed. You go to a stadium very frequently. You drive your own car to the stadium. Stuff like that obviously plays into it. But I don't know if there's something other than that. Outside of that, I don't think there's much there. I think what ends up happening a lot of times is that the teams that Nashville play them differently in their own home. Because if Austin was playing this game in Nashville, they will be a lot more conservative. They will be even, we were talking about them being a defensive team. They would be an extremely defensive team if this game was in Nashville. However, because they have the crowd behind them, because they have this sort of atmosphere with them, they are more willing to go and maybe have a couple of risks, and that might put Nashville in a bit of a different area. So yeah, I don't think there's much to it there other than just the fact that playing at home is more comfortable for these players, and they are more used to it. And then the other thing is the fans, like I mentioned. When you look at the Geodis Park, the last couple of games has been electric. Even when it's not a sold out crowd, it's very loud crowd, is very vocal. It matters for these players. And I think I was told I don't know the number exactly, but there's over 200, I believe, Nashville traveling fans for tonight's game, which is really cool. That's something that we don't see a lot of in MLS. Obviously, traveling to Austin midweek on a less than 2 week notice is not an easy thing. So shout out to all the Nashville fans who made that travel. And I think that section is going to look really nice compared to the rest of the stadium. That's going to be all green, and you'll see one gold section. So I'm looking forward to that. But I think that might give them a help and a little bit of a boost going into tonight.
Yeah, Valar, anytime you can, add a first in any scenario is special for an organization, a program, etc., no matter what level you're at. What do you feel like it would mean to Nashville FC to win a championship tonight and be the first team to do it in club history?
Yeah, I think it's a lot of writing is on the line, right? I mean, the Titans did it in 2000. They won the AFC championship, so not the whole thing, right? The Preds have the President's Trophy. Again, a little bit of a different thing. This would be the first championship, in my opinion, this state of Tennessee would have. The Grizzlies don't have a championship, and yes, it's not MLS Cup. Very much aware of that. It's not the highest level. But that's what differentiates soccer from these other sports, is that there are multiple championships you can compete for. And this is definitely one of them. This is the oldest championship in probably American sports history, not even just soccer. The first one was, I believe, in 1913. So it's been going on for a while as a really historic trophy. And to add that to the team, it really solidifies what this club has been building since day one. Whether it's Geodis Park building the stadium, whether it's the GM building the team, Mike Jacobs, or whether it's BJ Callahan in his first full year winning a trophy, or the players themselves, who some of them have been with Nashville since even before the MLS team started, and some of them are new additions this season. This solidifies that whole process for them, because now there's hardware that proves what they are doing is working, and I think it's a big thing. And then the other thing is a little bit less more tangible stuff, is that not only do you get a trophy and a little bit of bonus money here if you win this, you also qualify for the CONCACAF Champions Cup, which is a continental competition against the top teams of North and Central America. And if you win that, or you perform really well in that, then that will put you in possible qualification for the Club World Cup, which is a really big deal, right? So it's like it's a continuation of success that all can start from tonight, and kind of you can build upon that the more successful you become.
Valar, we talked about some key players a minute ago, but I want to go back to Hani Mukhtar for a second. He became the fifth player in MLS history this year with 10 assists in 5 consecutive seasons. Obviously, he's been a really good player for Nashville SC ever since they acquired him a couple of years ago. But just how important has he been to this run for the club?
Yeah, I mean, he's another one of those who's been here since day one of MLS. So 2020, he came in as a DP and not struggled, but 2020 with COVID and everything, he just wasn't doing it necessarily as a designated player. But then you look at every year from there on out, and he has been consistently just an incredible player. Everything through the attack goes through him. Serge is getting the goals, and he deserves all the goals, but Mukhtar is the one creating everything, creating all the pressure moments, and creating the chances for Nashville SC, real tangible chances that they have been able to convert this year, and that's why you see them with this success. I think what differentiates him from a lot of players in his position or in his skill set is that he's not just a skillful, magician sort of, type of player or just a finisher. He also has a lot of hard work, and the way he tracks back, the way he sets an example for the rest of the team, that even this guy who's getting paid a lot more than a lot of these guys on the team, he's willing to track back. He's willing to do his defensive work. He's willing to do the dirty work, gets his hands dirty. I think that sends a really big message to the rest of the team and really motivates them. And look, this solidifies his legacy as well. He won MVP in 2022, but he has yet to win a trophy with Nashville SC. And this would be another thing that he can add and say, you know what, the Nashville SC team that he leads in goals and assists and every other category under the sun has a trophy now. So it's a really big deal for him. And, based on what we've seen from him this season, he's back to that MVP form, and he's been performing really well. So I'm expecting nothing less tonight.
Last one for you, Valar, before we let you go and enjoy the Austin Sun. You mentioned coming into the season, you maybe thought that this was a rebuilding year for Nashville SC. They didn't make the playoffs last year for MLS. Well, they clinched a playoff spot last weekend with the win over Houston. They're right now sixth in the standings. Just kind of talk about that, just this team making the playoffs and what kind of run you think they can make in the MLS playoffs with two regular season matches remaining.
Yeah, the Eastern Conference is extremely, extremely congested if you look at it. I mean, a win, a tie, a loss, every single thing matters so much. Every single point is such a big point of emphasis here in the Eastern Conference, because between third and eighth, there are only 4 or 5 points. So it's a lot of movements can happen. And with that, it puts a lot of pressure on these last two regular season games. One of them is away at Montreal. One of them is at home to Messi's Miami, right? So it's a big end to the season. And I think if they were to lift the trophy tonight, I think it will give them a big boost to end the season well and then go into the playoffs. I think it's completely within. I think any team within 1 to probably 7 in the East, you can convince me that they will make a run to MLS Cup, and I will not, debate that, because that's just the quality of the Eastern Conference. And the West is not really as much of a quality, and that's why Nashville needs to fight for those higher up spots, not just to host more games in the Eastern Conference, but if they were to make a run to the MLS Cup final, which, again, this will be like really, really unexpected for Nashville SC, if they were to do that, they would be hosting that if they have a higher point count than their Western team opponent. So, all that said, for this team to make the playoffs, I think that was the bare minimum for this year, considering 9 teams make the playoffs in the Eastern Conference this year. So they already achieved the bare minimum and some, because the other part of it is how they're playing rather than just the results. They're playing really nice soccer, really exciting soccer that even when they're losing games or tying games, fans are on their feet. Fans are excited to watch this team for the first time in a long time. And I think that in itself is a big victory, regardless of what happens in the playoffs. Obviously, they have every chance to go into the playoffs and make a run. But I think if you ask BJ Callahan right now, he's just looking into tonight, and he wants to get tonight done with, and he wants to get his hands on the trophy, because I do believe that's something that can galvanize everybody and get them going for the playoffs.
Absolutely. It should be a good one tonight in Austin, Texas. 7 o'clock first touch between Nashville SC and Austin FC. That's Valar Shabilla of 615 Soccer. You can follow him on X at Valar Shabilla, and at 615 Soccer is where you can find all his good work. Buddy, we appreciate you coming in on short notice. We're looking forward to talking to you here real soon.
Absolutely. Thanks, guys.
Coming up on this break after the commercial break, we'll talk a little baseball, MLB playoffs, and some managing news across Major League Baseball. Some big news for us Braves fans of the respective show. We will have a new manager in 2026. We'll talk all about that next here on Main Street Sports Today, so stick with us.
Columbia Power and Water Systems is dedicated to bringing our customers reliable, local service. Whether you're turning on a light switch, your faucet, or streaming on TV, our dedicated team members from here in Murray County work every day to keep you on. If you need us, call us 931-388-4833 or visit cpws.com. CPWS, local service, local support.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
This day in Braves history, October 1st, 2020, during the COVID year, Braves right-handed pitcher Ian Anderson shines on the mound in Game 2 of the National League Wild Card Series as the Braves sweep the visiting Cincinnati Reds 5-0 at Truist Park. Anderson tossed 6 innings of shutout ball, striking out 9 batters. It was Marcell Ozuna and Adam Duvall both homering off for future Braves closer Raisel Iglesias in the closing innings as Atlanta advanced to the National League Division Series to take on the Marlins. That was this day in Braves history, October 1st, 2020. Calvin, I remember that 2020 season very vividly. Obviously because it was the COVID shortened season. We didn't have fans in the stands. I also remember that playoff run because you could have easily made the case that the Braves should have won the World Series that year. That was the year that they held a 3-1 lead in the National League Championship Series over Tommy Bryan's Los Angeles Dodgers and proceeded to lose 3 straight before the Dodgers went on to defeat the Tampa Bay Rays in the World Series. So, Calvin, that year, 2020, still hurts with the talent that the Braves had. They just didn't have really any pitching outside of Max Fried.
Yeah, no pitching, but if I remember correctly, I want to say that was the season the Braves had like 6 Silver Slugger winners. Travis d'Arnaud won a Silver Slugger, I think, and it's hard to believe that Marcell Ozuna's been a Brave for 5 years already. And on yesterday's This Day in Braves history, it was also from 2020. I think Freddie Freeman hit a walk-off against somebody. But
against Cincinnati in the first game of the playoffs.
Yeah. So those years were, the Braves were making the playoffs every year and just dominating people. Up until that World Series year, it just kind of felt like no matter who they ran into, even if they had a series lead, even with as good as they were, it never felt like the series lead was safe, and the Dodgers were kind of the thorn in their side there for a couple of years in the postseason.
Yeah, absolutely. So looking forward to this. We had some great matchups yesterday, great pitching matchups across Major League Baseball. We'll start in chronological order. We'll start with the first game of the slate yesterday. And if you love pitching, there's nobody you love more than left-hander Tarek Skubal, who was absolutely brilliant yesterday against the Cleveland Guardians in Game 1 of the American League Wild Card Series between two AL Central rivals. It was Tarek Skubal striking out 14 batters last night as the Tigers take a 1-0 lead in that series. Cleveland had an opportunity in the bottom of the ninth inning. They were trailing 2-1. Jose Ramirez singled to start the inning and reached third on a throwing error by Javi Baez, but the Guardians cannot bring him in as Will Vest hammers out the save. So Game 1 goes to Detroit. And as right now, that Game 2 of that series is underway. It's in the 8th inning, and it's 1-1. So 2 low-scoring games so far in the first 2 games between the Guardians and the Tigers, and that can be expected with 2 really good pitching staffs.
Yeah, it would be the most Cleveland thing ever to, claw their way back over the last couple weeks of the regular season. And get into the playoffs and then get swept by the team that they made a comeback on to get into the playoffs. But like you said, Tarek Skubal is just that dude wakes up and eats a bowl of nails for breakfast every day. We saw it last year when he just dominated his way to the AL Cy Young Award. Struck out 14 yesterday, and even with his performance, Cleveland was a Jose Ramirez base running mistake away from potentially tying the game and maybe even winning. But totally flips the script. Detroit had all the momentum coming into today. Both games have been low scoring, like you said, 1-1 tie in the top of the 8th inning. But Detroit looking to close that one out and move on to the divisional round.
Yeah, you mentioned this. Just I wonder, looking at it, if Detroit so happens to win today or win tomorrow and ultimately win this series, how much energy did Cleveland expend catching Detroit in the AL Central race and winning the division title? I mean, think about it. Detroit what had a 14-game lead at the All-Star break over Cleveland for the division, and Cleveland just goes on this absolute tear down the stretch in the month of September. Detroit absolutely falls off the wagon with Houston. They were the two teams that were just absolutely slumping night after night. We saw it last week. The Guardians catch and pass Detroit in Cleveland and win the series. And for them to come back this week and Detroit possibly winning the series, it's just wild. Something that you couldn't imagine coming in just with all the momentum that Cleveland had. So looking forward to seeing how that series shapes out. Like I said, if you love pitching, you love controlled chaos out of the bullpen, and right left matchups, all those good stuff, all that old school baseball, bunting runners, moving runners over, stealing bases, and that is definitely a series for you. We'll move over to the north side, of Chicago. I told you in a text message, Calvin, with a group message with us two, Wade Neely and Maurice Patton. There's nothing better than Wrigley Field in the postseason. We saw that environment yesterday. It was the Cubbies taking a 1-0 lead in the National League Wildcard Series with the San Diego Padres is Seiya Suzuki and Carson Kelly going back-to-back in the middle innings, home runs off Nick Pivetta to help the Cubbies pick up the win. And just give me your thoughts. Obviously, Matthew Boyd was really good, just gave up one run early, and then the Cubs turned it over to the bullpen, and they got it done to take the 1-0 series lead.
Yeah, the Padres, they jumped on the Cubs early, went up 1-0 in the second inning, and then the Cubs took it back in the fifth with 2 runs and added one more in the eighth. And the Cubs were one of the best teams all season long. They've been talked about as, a team that could very easily make a run to the World Series and even win the whole thing. And Nick Pivetta for the Padres was really good over 5 innings. But outside of the Dodgers-Reds game last night, every game we got was low scoring last night. And I talked about this with Wade yesterday. You can have all the you have to have pitching to be good in the playoffs. And, even if you've got a really good starting pitching staff, you've got to have the bullpen to close out games if necessary. And, we saw it from the Cubs last night. Trailed early, but scored just enough runs to take a 1-0 lead in the wild card.
If you love pitching, and this was a familiar theme yesterday, if you love pitching, then you definitely love the matchup in the Bronx last night between the Yankees and the Red Sox. Garrett Crochet, who had the most strikeouts in the American League with 255 at the end of the regular season, taking on Max Fried in the battle of southpaws, and it was the Red Sox picking up a 3-1 win to take a 1-0 series lead over their AL East and bitter rival, New York. It was Garrett Crochet outdueling Fried. Garrett Crochet had 11 strikeouts and no walks. At one point, he retired 17 consecutive batters, becoming the first pitcher to retire that many Yankees in a row in a postseason game since Carl Ernestky retired 19 straight in the 1952 World Series. According to ESPN research, it was the Yankees really kind of, wasting an opportunity, Calvin, at the end of that game. You told me how they loaded the bases in the bottom of the 9th inning. Aaron Judge gets a single to put runners on first and second. Cody Bellinger dunks a single into left field to make it bases loaded, and then Aroldis Chapman promptly retires. Giancarlo Stanton via the strikeout, Jazz Chisholm via a pop-up, and Trent Grisham swinging on a strikeout to escape some damage and give the Red Sox, who, we talked about it through the course of this, our time here, Calvin, how, they make a trade. They trade their best player, Rafi Defers, early in the season. And, Craig Breslow, who's their GM, said, we're going to be a better team because of it. And sure enough, they make the playoffs without Roman Anthony, who's hurt, with some pitching that outside of Crochet has been banged up. We'll see what Brian Bayo does tonight. They missed Alex Bregman for points of the season. But, the Red Sox, they find a way in the postseason. And when you have a guy like Crochet, you feel really good with the chances on the mound.
Yeah, and the Yankees did almost the exact same thing in the first inning. Paul Goldschmidt, Aaron Judge both singled to start the game. They had runners on first and second with nobody out. And I want to say Cody Bellinger flew out or struck out maybe, and then Garrett Crochet got a double play ball the next batter to get out of the inning. And then Goldschmidt, Judge, and Bellinger, like you said, all singled in the ninth to load the bases with nobody out. And Aroldis Chapman got 2 strikeouts and I want to say a flyout to end the game. In the playoffs, you got to get guys on base and you got to find ways to knock them in. Obviously, they're facing Garrett Crochet, who's one of the best pitchers in the game. And, even Max Fried, went 6 1/3, didn't give up a run, only gave up a couple hits. And, I've always been a big fan of the pitcher's duel, but, in this point of the year, you've got to score some runs as well. And Yankees couldn't do it last night, and they're on the verge of elimination today.
Yep, that will be something to watch. If you love drama, you love anytime those two teams get together. It was not very dramatic last night when it comes to the game action between the Reds and the Dodgers. The Dodgers picked up game 1 of that series 10-5 in convincing fashion. It was a very fashionable and historic night for one Shohei Ohtani, who homered twice, and also teammate Teoscar Hernandez, who will be shown in the picture that Mark is pulling up now. They both homered twice last night as the Dodgers had a 5-run win over the Reds. Ohtani hit a 117.7 miles per hour exit velocity off his bat on his first home run of the night, an absolute missile into the right field seats. And left-hander Blake Snell, who pitched really well, if you remember, in the 2020 World Series when Snell pitched for the Rays, pitched really well against the Dodgers. He shined last night for LA, allowing 2 runs over 7 innings pitched. It's the Dodgers, who, might be the best team in baseball, might be, getting started in the wild card round with a win.
Yeah, people talked about it all year. If the Dodgers ever got the bulk of their pitching staff back healthy, they would be the team to beat probably in the playoffs. And they looked like the best team in the game last night. You mentioned it, 2 homers each from Shohei Ohtani and Teoscar Hernandez. Dodgers scored 10 runs on 15 hits, and a lot of times 5 runs is going to win you a playoff game if you're the Reds, but not last night against the Dodgers. And that crew, and like you said, Blake Snell pitched really well. 7 complete innings, 4 hits, 2 runs, 9 strikeouts. That guy's a 2-time Cy Young winner for a reason, for 2 different squads. And I'm not saying this type of production is going to continue for the Dodgers, but right now they look like the team to beat through 1 game of the wild card round.
So here's where we stand as we enter the second day of the AL and NL Wildcard Series. Game 2 underway right now in Cleveland at Progressive Field. And in the bottom of the 8th inning, the Guardians have taken a 2-1 lead with Brian Rocchio with a solo home run as Cleveland is looking to avoid elimination and force a decisive Game 3 tomorrow afternoon. So we'll stay tuned on that one. Once again, Cleveland now up 2-1 in the bottom of the 8th as they're looking to avoid elimination against the Tigers in their AL Wildcard Series. On the north side of Chicago at Wrigley Field right now is 1-0 Padres as they look to avoid elimination. In the bottom of the 3rd against the Cubs, that pitching matchup is Dylan Cease versus Andrew Kittredge, who started that game for the Cubs, and I believe a bullpen game. Cubs once again leading that series 1-0. As we mentioned, this evening at Yankee Stadium, the Boston Red Sox lead their series 1-0. It'll be Brian Bale, the right-hander for the Sox, taking on Southpaw Carlos Rodon for the Yankees. And tonight in the nightcap at Chavez Ravine is the Dodgers looking to sweep the Cincinnati Reds. It is Zach Littell for the Reds, taking on Yoshitshibu Yamamoto, in that one for the Dodgers. We also had some managerial news over the week after the season ended last Sunday. Calvin. We also had some news for the Braves this morning, as it was announced that manager Brian Snitker, who won a World Series with the Braves in 2021, has led the organization for the last 10 years, will not return to the dugout next year and will step into an advisory role in the organization. That was announced today. First, ESPN's Jeff Passan earlier this morning. I'm going to read the press release from the Braves on their X account. It says the Atlanta Braves today announced that the longtime manager will transition to an advisory role with the organization for the 2020-26 season and will be inducted into the Atlanta Braves Hall of Fame prior to a game next year. Snitker, who is 69 years old, guided the Braves to 811 wins, won 6 NL East Division crowns, and 7 postseason berths over his 10 seasons as manager. Also led the team to its 4th World Series in franchise history in 2021. He was a 4-time finalist for National League Manager of the Year in his 9 full seasons at the helm and won the award in 2018. He exits his managerial post with the 3rd most wins of any skipper in the organization, trailing Bobby Cox, who won 2,149, and Frank Saley, who had 1,004. This is a topic that we talked about a lot throughout the summer, Calvin. Not only you and I and Mo, knowing that it's probably time for Snitker to hang it up, but it doesn't diminish everything he's done for the Braves organization.
No, and he was in that organization for almost 50 years, and he was the manager for 7 consecutive playoff berths and divisional championships. He led some of the most dominant Braves teams this century. Obviously won the World Series title in 2021. And he's probably one of the most influential, figures in the history of the organization. 3rd all-time in managerial wins in the franchise, like you said. And like the press release said, he's going immediately into the Braves Hall of Fame before a game next season, which is well-deserved. But I think that, there's a lot of Braves fans that agreed that it might be time for a change, even though the Braves had been dominating the division and being up there as one of the better teams in baseball over the last couple of seasons. There's already a couple other managerial openings in baseball, so the Braves, as well as a couple other squads, will be looking for new skippers next year.
Yeah, absolutely. We'll get to those very momentarily. Had a really good quote from Brian Snitker that I wanted to pass along, so please give me 1 second. I did not have the right X account attributed. I will go to Grant McCauley, who covers the Braves. Hold on, guys. In my mind, I'm ready for this next way to do it until you're ready. Then you never will retire. Once a Brave, always a Brave. It's true. There's nothing like Braves country. So I think that is best said for Snit, who steps away from the manager's seat. He will be a part of the organization for his 50th season. Another former Braves coach who found himself on the outside looking in of a manager spot this offseason. That is Ron Washington, who will not return to the Los Angeles Angels after 2 seasons with the organization. Wash missed over half of the 2025 season after doing quadruple bypass surgery earlier this season. Interim manager Ray Montgomery will also not return as the full-time manager. Wash said he wants to return and that the team's decision not to pick up his contract was based on the team's performance, not his health. So your thoughts on Ron Washington, one of the highly regarded coaches in baseball, stepping away, or at least from the Angels?
Yeah, he was obviously a really good assistant coach for the Braves for a while. Took the Texas Rangers to the World Series in the early 2010s when they lost to the Cardinals. He's one of the most respected people in baseball. He's been around baseball probably longer than you and I have been alive combined. He was a really good manager when he was a head manager, obviously outside of this stint with the Angels, but obviously don't want his health to kind of get in the way of him being around baseball. And it'll be interesting to follow and see where he ends up next season.
Absolutely, man. 2 really good managers. One, obviously, a World Series champion with multiple organizations. that have found themselves without a job now as we head into the offseason. The first of them is Rangers manager Bruce Bochy, who was let go from his position just a day after the end of the regular season. Obviously, we have our eyes open on Boch as San Francisco let go of Bob Melvin, who we should mention there as well. So there's an opening there for him to return with Buster Posey heading the GM operations of the San Francisco Giants. But obviously, Bruce Bochy, a multiple-time world champion, not only with multiple times with the Giants, but he also won a World Series championship with the Rangers just several years ago. And then Rocco Baldelli of the Minnesota Twins was let go from his job. Obviously, that is a team that very much underperformed in a AL Central that saw the Guardians and the Tigers both make the playoffs. So Rocco Baldelli, there was some word whether he was going to be up and down on whether he was going to be let go, and ultimately he was. I did mention, as I said, that the Giants did let go of Bob Melvin. The Pittsburgh Pirates did retain Don Kelly, and the New York Mets did retain Carlos Mendoza moving forward. So that is a very rapid look at some managerial moves that we're sure to come. I feel like we might still have some openings here even after the playoffs end. So we'll keep our eyes peeled on those as we continue to wind through the MLB postseason that got underway yesterday and will continue forward until obviously the last out of the World Series. Coming up here after the next commercial break on Main Street Sports Today, as we enter the second hour of the show, we'll jump into the latest edition of the Grab Bag to talk some news and notes across the world of the NFL, WNBA, and NBA. So stay with us here on Main Street Sports Today.
Jones & Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50-plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones & Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Zion Christian Academy at zioneagles.org or 931-388-7531. You can schedule your appointment to visit their beautiful campus. Again, zioneagles.org or 931-7531 to schedule your visit today.
Is your internet slowing you down? It's time for an upgrade. Whether you're at home, working from your home office, or at your business, it's time to unleash the speed you need with speeds up to 1 gig at CPWS for as low as $70 a month. Give us a call, 931-375-7777. Local service, local support, CPWS.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Second hour on Wednesday. Welcome back into Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance, Columbia. I am David Wilson. That is my buddy Calvin White. It's time to dive into the latest edition of the Grab Bag. We discuss some news and notes across the world of the NFL, WNBA, NBA, and a little college football that I will throw on the boys here. Just start in the NFL, where after 4 weeks. Just took 4 weeks, and I think we all knew this was going to come at some point. The Cleveland Browns have made a change to their QB1 on their depth chart. Browns head coach Kevin Stefanski confirmed to Cleveland players Wednesday morning that rookie quarterback out of Oregon, Dylan Gabriel, will make the start this week for the Vikings for the Browns in their Week 5 matchup against the Vikings. The change comes after Coach Stefanski sidestepped questions this past weekend after the Browns' Week 4 loss to the Lions in a 34-10 affair in Detroit. Cleveland is 1-3 on its season. Its lone win came against the Packers on a blocked field goal, then walk-off field goal at the dog pound just 2 weeks ago. Gabriel's first start will come in London as the Browns and the Vikings go overseas. He'll be the first quarterback to make his first NFL start outside of the United States, according to CBS Sports research. So no more for Flacco. It'll be the Dylan Gabriel show moving forward for the Browns here, starting in Week 5, Calvin.
Yeah, I think everybody kind of expected this to happen. Before the season started, all anybody talked about with the Browns was how they didn't have a legitimate starting quarterback. Joe Flacco's old. I don't know how exactly old he is, but he's old. He's been in the league for a long time. And Dylan Gabriel has never been, a serviceable NFL quarterback. And obviously, Shador Sanders, the rookie who they took in the 5th round, I believe. Cleveland's got a decent defense, but without a serviceable starting quarterback in the National Football League, you're never going to be very good. And right now, unless Dylan Gabriel might go out there and ball out for all we know, but right now it doesn't look like the Browns have a long-term solution at quarterback.
Yeah, we will see. Obviously, Dylan Gabriel, like Shador Sanders, is a rookie. Both were selected in this past year's NFL draft. So we will see what Dylan Gabriel looks like. Obviously, this is an organization that has struggled for decades to find its franchise quarterback. Obviously, starting with Tim Couch, who was the number 1 overall pick several decades ago. Obviously, the Deshaun Watson trade with Houston did not work out. Obviously, Deshaun is hurt and will be out for the entire season. Now, obviously, paying some of that money. They entered the fall with 4 quarterbacks on their depth chart. It was Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, Dylan Gabriel, and Shador Sanders. Obviously, Kenny Pickett gets shipped off. It was down to 3. Now you bench Joe Flacco, so it's definitely Dylan Gabriel's turn to try to take the spins under the wheel with the control. It's kind of funny how this worked out, though, Calvin. We heard the report from Deion Sanders when he talked with Travis Kelce and Jason Kelce, the Kelce brothers, on their show New Heights, how Shador Sanders vetoed, basically. He declined to get drafted by the Baltimore Ravens because he did not want to serve as a backup. He wanted the opportunity to start. Well, he has not gotten that so far in Cleveland, and it's ironic how Lamar Jackson goes down for Baltimore, and they really do not have a backup quarterback, of the depth variety that we'll say of Cleveland, and so it could have easily been Shador's opportunity in Baltimore to take the spin of the control and lead the Ravens offense that obviously has a little bit more weapons than Cleveland. So we will see how that works out as we wait on Calvin as he steps away. We'll jump into the next note here on the grab bag. We will go to the world of the NBA. And obviously last night in Las Vegas at Michelob Ultra Arena, as we talked about earlier in our top story, it was the Las Vegas Aces picking up a win over the Indiana Fever to advance to the WNBA Finals that will begin on Friday at Michelob Ultra Arena in Las Vegas. But we have some news, and I don't know if Wade and Calvin got into Nafesia Collier and her interactions and her comments about the WNBA Commissioner Kate Engelbert yesterday. But obviously, Asia Wilson took a stand with Nafesia Collier yesterday. Obviously, Calvin, did you and Wade talk about Kathy's comments the other day about what she said in regards to Nafesia Collier?
We did not.
Okay. Basically, she said, the players should be grateful for the media rights deal that have helped them secure more money and things of that nature. And so Asia Wilson took a stand for Nafesia Collier yesterday, saying I was absolutely completely disgusted by the comments that Kathy made. But at the same time, I'm very appreciative of the people that we have, like Fee and our committee of organization. I'm going to ride with Fee always. Obviously, she's a business girly, has her own stuff going on. But moving forward, we got to continue to stand on business as we talk about this CBA negotiation. Collier made multiple claims in her statement that she did in her post-game press conference after the Lynx saw their season end against the Phoenix Mercury in the WNBA semifinals, including how Engelbert said players like Caitlin Clark should be grateful because without the platform the WNBA gives her, she wouldn't make anything. According to Collier, Engelbert also said players should be on their knees thanking their lucky stars for the media rights deal that she got for the league. So a lot of voices have backed Nephesia Collier after she took a stand against the WNBA commissioner, including Fever coach Stephanie White, Seattle Storm's Erica Wheeler, and Chicago Sky's Angel Reese, among others. So, it's a very tentative and tedious position to be a commissioner of a league, but you definitely have to be careful what you say and to not piss off your players.
Yeah, the players in the WNBA have been owed more than what they get for a very long time. And, like you said, I don't think as a commissioner of a professional sports league, I would make public statements just taking a dump all over the players in my league. I don't think we would see Roger Goodell or Rob Manfred or Adam Silver or anybody in any other professional league do that. But the players and everybody else in the WNBA have been owed a lot more than what they get for a long time. We've seen the growth in the league over the last couple of years. The playoffs have been really exciting. There's a lot of eyes on the WNBA right now. So that's just a weird situation for the commissioner of the WNBA to just come out and basically put the entire league on blast.
Yeah, absolutely. I think you hit the nail on the head that these players need to get paid what they deserve. I mean, it's because of players like Caitlin Clark, right? And the eyeballs that not only her, Asia Wilson, Nephesia Collier, Angel Reese, etc. Like the game of Paige Beckers, the game of women's basketball is growing, and it did when Caitlin was at Iowa, and it's still now like Juju Watkins, Flau'jae Johnson, like these stars that are going to bring more eyes and more attention. Cameron Brink, like to the WNBA, it's moving in the right direction, and so the commissioner surely should not take credit. The credit goes to the players for continuing to grow the game and bring eyeballs to it. Move into the not from the WNBA to the NBA as training camp gets underway across the country as the NBA season becomes nears near and near. And the Lakers, who will have a 40-year-old on their roster in his 23rd season this year, that is one LeBron James. He will be missing some part of the training camp with a glute issue that JJ Redick said was a nerve irritation that they're going to try to proceed cautiously moving forward. Obviously, James ended last season with a sprained MCL in the playoffs and has dealt with a variety of foot, ankle, and calf issues over the last few seasons. Calvin, I remember, in his prime when he was with Cleveland, then Miami, and then back to Cleveland, and then early in his career with the Lakers, LeBron James just didn't miss games. He seems like he was Superman. He was bulletproof, and it seems like over the last couple of years, obviously his age is getting up there. That these kind of tiny, knick-knack injuries per se are really kind of slowing him down. And obviously, as a 40-year-old, it'll be hard for him to play all 82 games, but still, he's missed quite a lot of time over the last couple of years.
Yeah, and even at 40 years old, he's still a top 10 player in the league. He was second team All NBA last season, 24 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists 8 assists, 7 rebounds last year. Obviously, the Lakers haven't been as good as they were a couple years ago when they won the bubble championship, but that's arguably the best player in the history of the NBA on your team that you want back sooner than later. He's kind of the straw that stirs the drink over there for the Lakers, and along with Anthony Davis. And so obviously LeBron wants to get back as soon as he can, and the Lakers want him back and probably need him back as soon as possible.
Absolutely. Staying in the NBA, we'll shift to San Francisco and the Bay Area. We have, a couple years ago, when obviously in their prime, they were one of the best shooting tandems in NBA history. That was the Splash Brothers. Not actual brothers, but the Splash Brothers and Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry. Well, now we have a set of brothers that are actually brothers on the Warriors. That is Steph and Stephen Curry. Both will be Stephen, and Seth Curry. Sorry. I just said Stephen. Sorry. So Seth and Stephen Curry. They're going to join forces on the Warriors this fall, as Seth has signed a one-year deal with the Golden State Warriors, according to ESPN's Shams Charania. This is the first time that they've ever played with each other. Obviously, in the NBA, Seth has spent the last 2 seasons as a member of the Charlotte Hornets. He's 35 years old and averaged 6.5 points, 1.7 rebounds, and just shy of 1 assist per game. He shot 43% from the three-point line in his 11-year NBA career. So we had the Splash Brothers several years ago between Klay Thompson and Stephen Curry. Now we have Seth and Steph joining forces in the Bay Area.
Yeah, Steph, obviously, probably the best three-point shooter and shooter overall in NBA history. Seth has been really good shooter as well over the course of his career. The Warriors have kind of been looking for that second offensive weapon ever since Klay Thompson left. Andrew Wiggins has been able to provide a little bit of that over the last couple of years. But it's cool to see Steph and Seth get to play together on the same team, and I'm sure Seth is excited to get out of Charlotte and not play for the Hornets anymore, where it seems like careers go to die nowadays.
Yeah, absolutely. We will not pretend to even talk about what happens. Obviously, that was something that MJ couldn't even solve, who's obviously, in a lot of people's eyes and probably my eyes as well, the greatest basketball player to ever walk the earth. He could not even get the Charlotte Hornets solves as the owner of that. Last news and note here in the grab bag before we head into our next commercial break. I didn't have this one in the run sheet, Calvin or Mark, so please forgive me. It's been decided that in January of 2028, New Orleans will host the college football playoff title game. Once again, this will be the second time that New Orleans has hosted. The 14th title game in the CFP area will be played on January 24, 2028, following the 2027 regular season and the playoff rounds. Like I said, they'll become the third city to host the college football playoff game for a second time, joining Atlanta and Miami Gardens, which will host this season in January. This is from Rich Clark, who's the CFP executive director. The college football playoff is thrilled to bring the national championship game back to New Orleans in 2028. Few cities embrace college football quite like New Orleans, with its unmatched hospitality, culture, and passion for the game. We know fans, teams, and the entire college football community will have an unforgettable experience in one of the sport's most iconic destinations. In 2027, after they go to Miami next January, they will play at Allegiant Stadium in Las Vegas. So the college football playoff, Calvin, some good cities. I think I would enjoy a national championship game in Vegas. Spend some time in the casino playing some roulette, but should be fun in Vegas and New Orleans coming up over the next couple of years.
Yeah, it seems like anytime there's a sporting event in Vegas, it always does well. And New Orleans is kind of the same thing. We see what New Orleans looks like when LSU and all those other teams down there, the Saints and the Pelicans, are playing well. But just seems like two really fun cities to be in when the sports teams are doing well and when there's a big outside sporting event in those cities.
Absolutely. So looking forward to seeing that. Coming up on the next side of this commercial break, friend of the show, Heather Williams, will join us for her weekly segment as we talk a little NASCAR as the round of 12 ends this weekend at the Charlotte Roval in Charlotte, North Carolina. We'll also talk a little Chiefs, man. Her Chiefs are on a roll the last couple of weeks. I see her smiling in the on-deck circle. So we'll talk to Heather right after this here on Main Street Sports Today. So stick with us.
Deep Deep in a forest at Nashville Zoo, new creatures here for you to view. Phantoms graced in black and white swing high in trees of dappled light. In rocky crags, tall and steep, small antelopes with nimble feet. A wise old man with beard of white, a sentry perched on stony height. Amidst it all, a hunter lies, with coat of gold and steely eyes. A new adventure just for you. Leopard Forest at Nashville Zoo. Open now.
Jones and Lang Sporting Goods here in Columbia has been outfitting teams, officials, and anybody else from T-ball to college for 50 plus years. Be sure and check them out at 931-388-8060 or online at jonesandlang.com. Jones and Lang Sporting Goods, the look of a winner.
Piggly Wiggly, located in Neely's Mill Shopping Center, is Columbia's locally owned and operated Cost Plus 10 grocery store dedicated to serving the community with low prices and smiling faces. Piggly Wiggly offers fresh, hand-cut meats daily, as well as daily hot plate lunches from their deli counter. You're certain to see smiling faces and a helping hand when you're here at Piggly Wiggly. Come by and check out our fresh produce, high-quality meats, and more. Down home, down the street, we'll see you at the Pig.
Welcome back into a wild and wacky edition of Main Street Sports Today, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm David Wilson. That is Calvin White, who just said in our chat we will have a decisive Game 3 in Cleveland tomorrow afternoon in the AL Wildcard Series, as the Cleveland Guardians picked up a 6-1 win over the Detroit Tigers in Game 2 this afternoon. But right now, it's time for Calvin's favorite segment. It's time for some NASCAR, and our friend Heather Williams from Johnson City is joining us now. Heather, before we talk a little NASCAR, how about those Chiefs?
How about those Chiefs? Before I talk about the Chiefs, I want to talk about, can we just eliminate the Guardians and the Tigers and move on with the rest of the AL, since they play in the same division as my Royals? We'll just get rid of all of them. Neither one of them has to advance.
Yeah. We were talking about Rocco Baldelli leaving the Twins, and I was like, that was a division that, obviously the Royals made the playoffs last year. Thinking with Bobby Witt and just all the young talent that they have, you would think, man, they can make it back. And really that a division is kind of wide open, you think, at the beginning of the year. Obviously, the Tigers have Tarek Skubal, but wasn't in the cards for them this year.
No, they got off too tough of a start. I mean, at the back end of the season, they were playing as good as anyone, but can't spot teams 10 games and expect to come back and make a playoff. So, but they're in a pretty good position. They are young. They're still very talented. So we'll see what happens. But after last year, winning a series and all that, it's kind of disappointing to miss out. But I did go like 9 years with 100-loss seasons, so I'm not going to complain about, back-to-back 70-plus win seasons for sure.
As resident Braves fans, though, not to cut you off, Heather, it feels like you can't complain when you also have a World Series in recent memory. Like,
but it was 10 years ago. Series. It's not that recent. The Braves have one more recently than we do.
I know.
Bobby Wood Jr. and 65-year-old Salvador Perez were really good players for my sixth place fantasy baseball team this year, Heather.
How about Salvi, though, man? I mean, he's the ageless wonder. He's actually getting better the last couple of years as he gets older, which is crazy. But I'll take it. I love Salvi. I wish he could play in blue and white forever. I know that's not possible, but we'll take him as long as we can have him.
Yeah, Heather, moving to the NASCAR Cup Series schedule, and we'll recap last week at Kansas. Last week, Heather, I asked you to play psychiatrist and therapist, whatever you want to say, for Joe Gibbs Racing in specific. Now let's broaden it out to Team Toyota as a whole, as those closing laps of the race at Kansas, absolutely wild. Bubba Wallace takes the lead from Christopher Bell, kind of puts him in the wall a little bit, and then here comes his owner, who owns the car and needs that car to, maybe make it to the round of 8. Denny Hamlin, gets a little tight kind of pushes Bubba Wallace up against the wall. Here comes Chase Elliott around the bottom. Door slams Denny Hamlin on the way to taking the checkered flag, for Rick Hendrick, and advance into the round of 8. Just kind of walk me through just the chaos that we saw the last couple laps at Kansas.
Yeah, I'm sure all my neighbors thought it was absolutely insane because there was a lot of screaming going on in those final laps, and then also glancing over and seeing the Chiefs, and so it was overload for sure. Denny Hamlin said on his podcast that he was fine with how everything went down, including the fact that Bubba Wallace flipped him off. He's like, look, he's flipping off Denny Hamlin, the driver of the 11. Now, if he walks into the competition meeting on Monday and flips him off as Denny Hamlin, the owner, then there's an issue. But, this is different than what happened between Denny and Ty Gibbs the week before, because in the final laps of the race, I mean, everything is on the table, right? I mean, all's fair. So they were racing hard. They made some contact. I don't think anyone punted anyone or anyone. They were just trying to, making some contact and trying to pass. And at the end of the race, that's what you got to do. I mean, everybody involved needs to win to move on to the next round. Nobody is quote unquote safe. So everybody did what they felt like they needed to do. Chase Elliott was the absolute beneficiary of chaos. He was not the best car, although he did pass a lot of cars in the final lap, so he might have been the best car in the closing laps, but over the course of the race, he was certainly not the best car. So, I mean, it is what it is. I think we all know the heads of race car drivers know well enough to know that no psychiatrist is going to change their aggressiveness in the final 2 laps of a race. So it happened. Hopefully they made up on Monday, and we'll see what happens going forward.
Yeah, absolutely, Heather. And we've talked about this several times throughout the summer. It seems like obviously this next gen car, it just thrives on those 1.5 miles where there's multiple lanes. It seems like Kansas year after year produces the best racing. That was the case yet again on Sunday. So just kind of elaborate on that and just passing changes, all the things that you do in a good quality race, the drama, the late restarts, all that was on display this past weekend at Kansas.
I mean, the next gen car likes cars that can likes tracks where they can move around, where there are multiple grooves, where it's super wide, and that's Kansas. That's why the racing there is so good. And I think in the poll that Jeff Gluck does, it got it over 90%. It's the highest rated race I can think of in quite some time, and maybe the year. So it was fun. It was good. I love it for my hometown. I like the fact that the racing there is so good. I wish it wasn't so cold in November, or the possibility of it being cold wasn't there in November, or 6 feet of snow on the ground, because I think Kansas would make one heck of a championship race. I think everybody would be happy with if what we saw yesterday or Sunday was for the championship. I mean, you really couldn't ask for anything more than that. But given the variability of the weather, I don't think that'll happen. But yeah, it was a great time. It was a great race.
Absolutely. That poll number by Jeff Gluck also could be contributed to Chase Elliott winning. We know NASCAR's most popular driver. Anytime he wins, people are going to be happy. Looking at the NASCAR Cup Series standings as we head to the final race of the round of 12 here at Charlotte. So everybody is home this weekend as they get on the roll. Obviously, Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney have clinched and moved on to the round of 8. Looking at those at the bottom of the cut line as we head to Charlotte, it's Ross Chastain minus 13, Bubba Wallace minus 26, Tyler Reddick minus 29, and Austin Cindric minus 48. Seems like it's going to be a must-win for at least Tyler Reddick and Austin Cindric. Probably can put Bubba Wallace in that category as well. So, as looking at that, who are some people that you have your eyes on? Obviously, Tyler Reddick, you've mentioned over the last several weeks, a very good road course racer. Austin Cindric also, really a talented with Team Penske. So just kind of talk about those 4 below the cut line and, anybody you're potentially worried about above.
Well, and I think Ross is a pretty good road racer too. And Bubba's gotten better. I mean, I think he's actually performed better on the road courses this year than Tyler has, even though the overall body of work is definitely there for Tyler. I think it's going to be tough for any of those 4 teams to get in, just because with the exception of Joey Logano, who of the guys above the cut line, I would say I'm the most worried about. Denny Hamlin also is not a great road course racer, but sitting in fourth place, a lot would have to happen for him to not make the cut. So it's going to be very difficult just because I don't really see anyone above the cut, with the exception, like I said, Joey, making a big enough mistake for somebody to sneak up there just on points alone. Like, I really think that at least the mindset is going to have to be for the four guys on the outside that they're going there to win. I think they're going to have to call the game, call the race that way, really focus on a strategy that gets them to victory lane. Because at the road course, you either have to pick whether you're going for stage points or whether you're going for the win, just because of the way the strategy goes, because you work backwards, not necessarily work to the stage breaks. So I think it's going to be tough for any of them to get in. I would say most likely to make a mistake, an unforced error would probably be the 22, but they haven't really done that in the playoffs so far this year. They haven't been amazing, but they've been solid enough that they keep chugging along. So be interesting. It'll be really fascinating. Bubba's the one guy that you look at and say, well, he probably has no chance because he's not a very good road course racer. But I go back to what I said. He's run pretty well on the road courses this year. He's really worked to improve the road course ability. And then, of course, we all have to remember the great spoiler in all of this could be SVG. He's won all but one road course race. He's won all but like 2 stages worth of road course racing. So he could go in there and just mess this up royally for everyone not named Chase Elliott and Ryan Blaney.
Yeah, and you kind of took the next question out of my mouth. When you have an SVG on your, I guess, in your field, who can just absolutely just dominate and run away with a race like this. If you're Briscoe or Logano, is it just strictly try to collect as many stage points as you possibly can and just really make sure that, anybody below the cut line doesn't win?
Yeah, I think those two guys definitely can go into this in points race and not necessarily have to go for a win. Keep in mind too, I mean, I know he hasn't been great on the road courses, but in recent years, but because Charlotte's not really a traditional road course, it has the Roval, so it's got that turns 3 and 4 on the big track. AJ Allmendinger has been really good there too, so he's another guy outside of the playoffs that could upset everything and come in and win. So you have to keep your eye on those guys as well when you're doing your strategy, not just the guys that you're racing in the playoffs, because if you need to win, you got to keep an eye on those guys too. But I think everybody above the cut line can definitely points race. I think everybody below the cut line, the exception of maybe Ross, because he's a pretty good road course racer. He's not that far back. I think everybody else will probably have to go in thinking they need to win.
They're transitioning over to ETSU. They lost 38-34 to number 23 Mercer at home this past Saturday. We'll get into the numbers here in a second, but just they're ETSU's 2-3 now. Just kind of what were your overall thoughts, on the Bucks loss to Mercer this past weekend?
Well, I didn't get to watch it because I was covering other things. I did listen on the radio. I do know Monday at his weekly press conference, Will Healy said everybody's to blame. The offense got off to a quick start, and then in the back end really couldn't score points to put Mercer away. They had a chance to go up 17 points and couldn't do it. And then when the defense needed to stop, they couldn't do that either. Like, they gave up 14 unanswered points to the team that won the league last year. Like, if you're going to win the league, you cannot do that. So I think it's going to be really difficult for them because now they go to a place in Furman where they have not traditionally had success. They have not beaten Furman at Furman very many times at all, maybe 3 times ever in the history of the school. So, just from a mental standpoint, and I know not very many of these guys have been there, but enough have that they know the history. Like, it's a tough place to play. It's going to be hard for them. And you cannot fall 2 games back from the league leaders and expect to compete for a championship. And considering all the transfers they have and all the talent that's on this team, I think for them, anything less than at least being in the conversation in the final weeks for a championship will be a huge disappointment for this team.
This is their second 4-point loss to a ranked FCS opponent. And, they turned it over 3 times on Saturday. Cade McNamara threw 2 interceptions. Just what do you think it is about this team? Obviously you said Will Healy said everybody's to blame, but what do you think it is about this team to where they haven't been able to put together a solid 4 quarters against a good opponent yet?
I think it's mental breakdowns. I mean, that's what the players said. It's they've got to clean up their mental mistakes. Cade McNamara has played in enough high-profile games that he knows better than to throw the 2 balls that he threw, and he would readily admit that. I think that the return of hopefully this week of Jacoby Criswell, Coach Healy was hopeful on Monday that we talked that he would be back, could be helpful because then if McNamara is making those kind of mistakes, you don't have to stick with them. When he got injured, Criswell was definitely playing better of the 2 quarterbacks. So I think if he comes back and can have that level of play, it just gives you a whole nother option when your guys have it, especially if McNamara is not having a good day. Like he didn't have a terrible game, but he just at times wasn't making great decisions. You've got somebody that's equally as talented that you can throw in there. So I'll be interested to see if he comes back and if he makes a difference as far as maybe you don't have McNamara in there to throw that second interception.
McNamara was 29 for 46 for nearly 400 yards, threw for 398, 4 scores, and 2 interceptions, but was sacked 5 times. And, when you take out the net yardage, the net rushing yardage from his sacks, ETSU only had 36 yards net rushing. We've talked about
and they're playing with a lot. They're playing with a lot of
Yeah.
injuries on that offensive line, which makes a huge difference. It's the reason for the sacks. It's the reason why I believe the rushing game's having a hard time going. Healy believes that the running backs are to blame for that some as well. He really feels like they should be finding the holes better, but if you have an inconsistent or young offensive line, that can just throw your whole offense off. So I think they do need to figure some things out there. I believe they're hoping that one of their offensive linemen will be back this week, so that can help share things up. But at the end of the day, nobody feels sorry for you. Nobody has any sympathy for the fact that you're playing with a bunch of freshmen or sophomores on the offensive line. You just got to find a way to get it done.
And last one for me, they were outscored 21-7 in the second half. Obviously, I don't know when those turnovers occurred in the game, but turnovers were probably a big part of that. Just giving Mercer good field position, but part of that is probably, I would assume, the defense as well. Just you said you didn't get to watch, but what do you think kind of led to that second half collapse of ETSU? You talked about how they could have went up 17 points, but the script kind of flipped and they were outscored a bunch of the second half.
Yeah, I mean, the defense, they readily admitted that they missed some assignments, right? And you've got them. Healy talked specifically about one instance where they had them on 4th and 1, really had them on 3rd and long, and then 4th and 1, and couldn't get them off the field. I mean, if you're going to win football games in the Southern Conference, if you want to compete for championships, you got to get some of those stops. And it doesn't matter, yes, there were a couple of times where the offense put them in a bad field position, but that's when you have to at least hold them to a field goal, right? Even if you get the ball in your territory, yes, you are probably going to concede points at that point, but can those points be field goals instead of touchdowns? Because if they do that, they win the game. Like, that's just the difference, right? Even if both, and like I said, I didn't get to watch, but even if both of those turnovers specifically turned into touchdowns, they've specifically turned into field goals instead, you win the game. So they've got to toughen up a little bit. I think it's a huge wake-up call because I think going into the third quarter, they probably already thought they had this one and we're going to be sitting pretty in the Southern Conference. Now you're a game back of the defending champs, and you've got to find a way to take care of business in a place that you've not had very much success in the past.
That is Heather Williams of WCYB Sports. You can find her on X at Sports Heather. Heather, before we wrap up and let you go, I have to ask, I've asked myself this. If the Phillies and the Dodgers play in the NLDS, I mean, those are two teams I hate so much as a Braves fan. It's like picking between two evils. So for you, to wrap up, is there a lesser evil between the Guardians and the Tigers, or are they both just absolutely brutal?
I mean, no. And what's worse is that if they win, then we got the Yankees, who also can just fall off a cliff, as far as I'm concerned. So, I'm pulling in this whole thing for the Mariners. That's where my head's kind of landing, because they've not won one, and they were a division rival with the Royals many years ago, back when the Royals were in the West. But we're far enough removed from that now that yeah, that's where my head is. I don't. I mean, I guess if you twisted my arm and made me pick one, I'd probably pick the Tigers. But
Ooh, okay.
it's that I would root for. But yeah, honestly, I don't want to see either one of them win.
I got you. Really quickly, Judge or Raleigh MVP?
Whit Merrifield. No, I'm saying, I mean, Whit Merrifield. Yeah, that'd be good. No, Bobby Witt. No, I mean, Judge is probably going to win, but Bobby should have won last year for sure. And I will die on that hill.
Yeah, I think Mo and I are leaning towards Cal Raleigh just because he's a catcher and he does so much. But obviously, Aaron Judge is the captain for a reason. So, Heather, we
But see,
appreciate you joining us.
and the national media is going to pick Judge. That's why I said he's going to win. I don't think that's who I think should win. And like I said, I thought Witt should have won last year. But the national media has a fascination with New York.
Absolutely, Heather. We appreciate you joining us on a Wednesday. Have a good rest of your day.
See you guys.
Coming up, as we enter our last commercial break of today, it's time for the Wild and Wacky segment of the show. We'll dive into the wild and the wackiest stories across the globe right after this on Main Street Sports Today. So stick with us.
Being in Tennessee, we wanted to try to keep it as local as possible, so we have an entire section of our menu that is just dedicated to local whiskeys like Uncle Nearest, Jack Daniels, of course, George Dickel, Nelson Brothers, Greenbrier whiskey, and all of our taps are all local. From 2 o'clock until midnight, we've got food every day for you guys. A good handful of appetizers, some entrees, and a couple salads and things like that. My name is Ethan Kanata. Please come down and see us at the Pick Lobby Bar here at the Omni in Nashville.
There's a line that links us all. Most of the time, we don't even think about it. But it's everywhere. Illuminating our neighborhoods, empowering our businesses, and helping us to recharge. Whether it comes from our grids, the sun, or a kind heart, we believe in the power of good energy. And as your family and region continue to grow, you can trust that we'll always be there for you. Middle Tennessee Electric, bringing good energy.
Final segment on a Wednesday here on Main Street Sports Day, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. I'm David Wilson, coming to you from my respective home here in the 615 in Nashville. That's my buddy Calvin White up in Montgomery County in Clarksville as we wrap up the show. Calvin looking to wrap up his week ahead of week 7 of the high school football season. Where are you heading out this Friday?
I'll be at White House Heritage in Whites Creek.
That's where I thought you would be. So please say hello to Rich Lopez for me. He's looking forward to talking to you. And should be a good one up there between two really good quarterbacks in Deion Barnes and White House Heritage's Xavier Murray. So stay tuned to Calvin's socials on that, out at Calvin White 55 for all the good stuff in that region matchup between potentially two region title contenders. But right now, though, it's time for the wildest and wacky stories from across the globe. Calvin, I turn over the baton to you as we get things going.
Yeah, our first wild and wacky story. Mark's got the the photo pulled up already, I see. But our headline reads, Mom wins video game tournament while holding her 5-day-old baby. It says a new mother is going viral after winning a video game tournament in Florida while holding her newborn baby just 5 days after giving birth via C-section. The gamer who goes by the handle Legion entered a Mortal Kombat tournament Saturday in Orlando, Florida. So this lady's out there kicking butt, taking names in Mortal Kombat with her 5-day-old baby.
Can't get off the sticks, right? So
No.
I could imagine, I am not a father, and I know that is probably a stressful time. How many fathers to, if the labor is multiple hours, maybe hop on the sticks while his wife is in pregnancy, just buy the time to maybe calm some nerves. Well, maybe she was hopping on the sticks while she was in the bed, maybe, and they set up a little TV for her, and she got a little practice before she gave birth and proceeded to win this tournament.
She gotta get the practice in whenever you can, I guess. But what's funny is the story says that the victory earned her a $28 prize. I don't know if that's a typo.
$28.
But she won $28 for having birth or giving birth and winning a Mortal Kombat tournament all within a week.
She was probably like, these hospital bills are way more expensive than simply $28. So $28 ain't gonna cut it. I need some more change than that. Do you play or have you played in the past Mortal Kombat?
I did when I was little, but I haven't
Okay.
recently in a long time.
See, I was always lame. If I was gonna play a video game, trust me, I am a poor man. I have not invested in what PS number are we on? PS4, PS5?
5. On 5.
I've not invested in that so far. So that or an Xbox. So I am very cheap, man. I would only play sports games. No other games, just sports. So Madden, NCAA, or NBA, baseball, etc. So that was not on the list for me.
Yeah, it says she beat 3 other players, and one of the other players was her husband. So maybe her husband was not helping her practice in the
He was
hospital.
trying to win it himself.
He was trying to sabotage her. Maybe he was practicing in a different room at the hospital.
Hey, there's nothing wrong with having some healthy competition, especially in a marriage. So props to those two. The child is probably going to end up being a gamer baby too. So he'll get the skills, or she will get the skills from the parents.
Absolutely. We're gonna skip around. Wait, Mark, do you have the bear video?
Yes.
Mark has the bear video. Our next story, we talk about loose animals.
Less
a lot on Wild
effective,
and
you
Wacky.
know, trying.
Browsing bear caught on camera running loose through Arizona store. The lead says an Arizona wildlife photographer who failed to find any interesting wildlife in a state park ended up capturing footage of a bear in an unexpected place, a grocery store. So this bear, I guess, found its way into...
How the heck did it get in?
I don't know. He found his way into what looks like a Walmart and was trying to find some snacks.
He's looking for that honey owl. He's looking for it. He's looking for the comb, man. Say those sliding doors. That's the trap with them. They just automatically open, and whatever it's there. Come on in. He's looking for the honey. 100%. I don't know if he's looking for some. Did you eat honeycombs, the cereal, as a kid?
I used to eat Honey Nut Cheerios, but I don't know how much real honey.
I'll say I'm about to say the honeycombs. I absolutely love the honeycombs. I'm not gonna lie with you. I would munch up some honeycombs. He's looking for the honeycombs. That I don't even know if they make them anymore, but that would be what I was looking for if I was him.
I never had any of those, but it said he wandered into the Walmart around 6:30 a.m. on Monday.
Goodness.
So he was trying to get his cereal for his breakfast.
He was, and I'm sure he got tranquilized very quickly and taken somewhere else.
It says the bear fled the store and was spotted outside a nearby Starbucks, but he was nowhere to be found.
He's trying to get his coffee now.
He's trying to get cereal and coffee.
Get his espresso going.
It said he was nowhere to be found by the time police and Arizona Game and Fish officials arrived on the scene. So he got his cereal and his coffee, and he was heading back home. He just went out for a little grocery run.
He was, absolutely.
This police said it was not clear whether the animal was the same bear that sparked a shelter in place at an Oro Valley school when it was spotted near. So it says the bear was not acting aggressive and no injuries were reported. So he really was just trying to get breakfast.
Can you blame him? I mean, I'll say this, Calvin. Like, I'm not going to pretend like I'm not the biggest breakfast person. I do not eat it every day. And I know some people say it is the most important meal. I'm not a great cook. And so breakfast is not on the menu for me. But I do occasionally like a waffle every now and then, or an omelet.
Yeah, I like breakfast food. I don't eat it at breakfast time a lot of times, but I'm
That's fair
also
enough.
not active 99% of the time at 6:30 a.m. So
That's fair too.
he was just trying to get his breakfast. Our third wild and wacky story goes to our first world record of the day. Seems like we get a couple of these at least. Just about every wild and wacky Wednesday, but a Japanese man breaks the speed record for running on all fours. A Japanese man channeled his inner quadruped. Is that a word? I don't know what that means. He broke a Guinness World Record by running 328 feet in 14.55 seconds on all fours.
I'm not doing that.
I can't imagine.
I remember the running ones. I remember the ones about the lady speed walking over the Legos. I think
Yeah.
last week or the week before.
Yeah.
But this one's different for sure.
Yeah, I would imagine that would take like a lot of coordination to get your hands and feet working together to build up some speed with that motion.
Yeah, I'd fall on my head.
Yeah,
I really would. I'd fall on my head. So, they measure it. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Says he's 22 years old. He broke the record for fastest 100 meters running on all fours. Says he's been running on all fours since middle school. So I don't know. I guess the only way to figure out that you can do this is to try it. So I guess he's had a lot of practice if he's 22 years old and he's been doing it since middle school.
I've been moving slower and slower on the 2, let alone the 4. So I'll just keep rolling with the 2. Just age.
I've got a pretty low speed setting on 2 feet. I can't imagine what would happen if I tried all fours.
A couple of years ago, we thought we might set our fantasy football order by like 40-yard or 60-yard dash, and then we thought about it for a while, like how many pulled hamstrings is going to be the result of this, and we quickly decided not to do that.
That sounds painful. I remember I went to play slow pitch softball with some of my friends a couple years ago, and this was a long time after like I had hung up the baseball cleats and like a dummy, even though I was like 19 years old, did not stretch before this.
No stretch. There you go.
Nope.
Yeah.
Had laced one in the right field gap, would have been a double. Had to settle for a long single.
Had to pull up, throw out the anchor.
Had to settle for a long single on that one.
Yeah.
But moving on to our fourth wild and wacky story. Little crustacean, I think, is what these are considered. Took a little first class ride in a train in England. The headline reads, "Crab found riding first class on passenger train in England." The driver of a Southwestern Railway train in England said he initially thought he was being pranked when he heard there was a crab sitting in first class. Railway officials said on social media that passengers on the London to Portsmouth train spotted the small crab sitting in its own seat in first class. So who knows how he got there, but wherever he's going, he's trying to get there quick.
Yeah, I can imagine you sit on a train, right? Taking a nap on the train, and then that thing maybe just crawling up and snapping you a little bit. Goodness, that scared me.
It says the driver initially thought someone was playing a joke on him, but he soon confirmed there was indeed a live crustacean commuter. I'm trying to see if it says if they know how he got on there.
Well, that's not as big as I thought. I mean, the picture over top looked bigger than what it looks like in his hand.
I bet that's probably pretty scary for if it just crawled up on someone.
Yeah, for sure.
It says they don't know how he got in first class, but it says they relocated him to a local pond, but nonetheless found his way onto that train.
Yeah.
Moving on to our what might be our final wild and wacky story of the day. This headline says, "Very mean squirrel terrorizing California neighborhood." Residents of a California neighborhood are warning other locals to beware of a very mean squirrel that has sent at least 2 people to the emergency room.
Goodness.
Joanne Heblack, a resident of the Lucas Valley neighborhood in San Rafael, said she was taking her morning walk recently when the squirrel attacked her leg. So apparently this squirrel is a repeat offender.
Oh, he or she's hunting.
I remember at MTSU, for the people that went there, over in Walnut Grove, there's just a massive amount of walnut trees over there on campus. And there were some massive squirrels over there. And, like, they could have been mistaken for small dogs. And they were always, like, really friendly. They would let you get close. But I always wondered what it would look like if one of them decided one day they had enough and decided to get after you.
Yeah, absolutely. I remember when I normally down here, sorry about my mic dropping, squirrels, scatter very quickly. When I went to Washington, D.C. a couple years ago, those squirrels, like, you could walk beside them and they not move. I don't know what's the difference between the squirrels here in Tennessee and the mid-state and the squirrels up there in the nation's capital, but different size difference and different attitude when people are around.
It says another resident said she and her daughter were attacked by the Dang.
Look at them cuts.
She and her daughter were attacked by the rambunctious rodent while walking. She ended up going to the emergency room. And then another person, her husband, also had a confrontation with the squirrel when he tried to get the animal to stop biting his wooden fence. I don't know how they know this is the same squirrel, because most squirrels look the same. Most squirrels look the same, I would imagine. But yeah, this squirrel is definitely getting his licks in. I don't know what these people did to him, or if anything, but he's definitely out for blood, it looks like.
Yeah, for sure. So that'll do it on another wild and wacky segment here on Main Street Sports Day, presented by the Tennessee Orthopedic Alliance of Columbia. Appreciate Calvin, as always, diving through those and sorting those out and really helping me out. So I appreciate Calvin. Calvin's done for the week. He's got some football on Friday night. You can find him at White House Heritage this week, as we mentioned, as Whites Creek makes the trip over there in Class 3A and some region play. You can find Calvin, all his good work at The Connection and at Main Street Clarksville. You can also follow him on X at Calvin White 55. I'll be back tomorrow for another good show as I slow down with some time to spare. Sorry about that, Mark. It'll be Throwback Thursday with myself and Maurice Patton as we look to continue to close out the week. We'll have Coach's Corner. We'll also have our throwback segment. Mark, do you by chance know who our Throwback Thursday segment is going to be tomorrow?
Sorry, you caught me off guard here. Hold on.
Sorry, no worries. I didn't know if we had already decided that. To be determined, so it's something that you guys can definitely look forward to on the show. Should be a great weekend. Calvin, really quickly. There you go. There we go. So there is our Throwback Thursday segment for tomorrow. Calvin, really quickly, we'll get your opinion here as we got about a minute and a half left on the show. We've talked about it in our group message all week. Obviously, College Game Day is going to be down in T-Town this weekend. Vanderbilt, Alabama. Your thoughts on the matchup, really quickly?
Obviously, it would be really big for Vandy if they can go down there and win. Diego Pavia's got to stay healthy. Obviously, he's the key to all this for Vanderbilt. Vanderbilt's got a lot better offensive line than they've had the last couple of years, but we saw it last week with Alabama. Alabama kind of manhandled Georgia in the trenches and turned it on offense late in the game. But if Vandy is able to win this one, I think it'll be bigger than the one last year, even though Alabama is not number one in the country. But going on the road and beating a really good Alabama team.
Absolutely. Really quickly, scoreboard update in the MLB playoffs. It's the San Diego Padres up 3-0 in the top of the sixth up at Wrigley Field, and they have 2 runners on and nobody out. So a full slate of MLB games tonight as it's a second day of the postseason continues. We've got some teams looking for some sweeps and some teams looking to extend their season. So once again, we'll recap all that action tomorrow on the Throwback Thursday edition of Main Street Sports Today with myself and Maurice Patton. We'll talk to you guys then.